for a glimpse into our historical, cultural, and natural heritage, North Carolina Scenic Byways presents Forest Heritage. This rugged mountainous terrain isolated its people, but offered the promise of abundant natural resources. In the early 1800s, European settlers began to move into these mountain areas using the Wagon Gap Road, which connected Brevard to the Pigeon River Gorge and Tennessee. When they arrived, they built homes from the forests that surrounded them and grew or raised their own food. Since general stores could only be found in the larger communities, they had to make almost everything they needed to live comfortably in this environment. To start our journey back through time and experience mountaineer life, we visit a special place on the Forest Heritage Byway, the cradle of forestry in America. Here, along the Biltmore Campus Trail, you can stop at authentic sites to see how folks might have lived in earlier times. At these old cabins, craftspeople of today demonstrate the skills homesteaders needed to survive. The fireplace was the central part of the small house. It was a source of heat and where all the cooking took place. Here's how biscuits were made. Cast iron pots with fresh dough placed inside were set on top of hot coals pulled from the fire. Coals placed on top of the lid allowed the biscuits to cook on the bottom and top. Finally, biscuits were ready to serve and brought to the kitchen table. The furniture was rustic and plain. Tables, chairs, benches were built by hand from a variety of different woods, such as hickory, maple, or oak, that grew in the forest around them. The hand tools they used, like the frame saw, plane, axe, and hammer, took longer to use than our power tools do today. Even the toys were handmade and simply constructed. With a notch here and there, a whimmy-diddle could turn and spin. Twirling and pulling a button on a string would captivate the attention of the mountaineer children. Children played, but women worked hard in their home. Foot-propelled spinning wheels were used to twist fiber strands into yarn. At a loom, shuttles carried weft yarn across warp so that patterns could be woven into cloth. It wasn't easy to wash the clothes they made. Using water from a nearby stream, clothes were scrubbed on a washboard using homemade lye soap. Folks did not have electricity as we do today, so they made candles to illuminate the house at night. The simplest candles were made by dipping the wicks repeatedly into a pot of melted wax. After each dipping, the candle was set aside to cool. When all work was done and it was time to sleep at the day's end, families snuggled down under warm quilts, artistically pieced together from scraps of cloth. This self-sufficiency and simple way of life seems romantic to most of us, but it meant hard work and long hours to survive. Soon, life in these mountain communities was to change. By the late 1800s, the natural resources of these woodlands became a commodity. To meet consumer demand across the nation for forest products, northern timber and paper pulp interests turned to the South Appalachians, and these companies bought thousands of acres of old-growth forests. As the railroads reached the mountains, it became economically possible to transport logs to sawmills and boards to market. But the exuberance over early logging had its consequences. Soil eroded, gullies washed out, and streams filled with silt. Forest slopes were depleted of their trees. The economy and ecology could not be sustained. But we did not know then what we know today.